The Lafayette Leopards of the Patriot League are coming to Morgantown tonight, and we're going to have you covered in this game preview. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. All right, welcome in everybody to Mountaineer Moment, episode 89. This is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball, and we've got a game preview episode here because Lafayette is coming to Morgantown to visit the 4-0 West Virginia Mountaineers, the Leopards of Lafayette in the Patriot League. They sit at 1-3 this year, but they're coming to Morgantown tonight for a game on ESPN Plus at 7 o'clock Eastern. And so we're going to give you, in this episode, we're going to give you a few things to know about this team. We're going to talk about the Mountaineers and what they have coming up even after this. I know we're not supposed to look ahead too much, but they're going to Charleston soon with a couple matchups that are going to tell you a little bit about this team. We're going to tell you a little bit about that toward the end of this episode. We're going to talk about Mountaineers' backyard brawl win. Again, I know we just did that. We already covered it, yes, but maybe that's a confidence boost that this team needs and needed, in that game especially. Regarding Lafayette, we're going to give you some names to know. We're going to tell you how they got here to this point in this young season, where they're at, what you need to know about them, and what they might pose against these Mountaineers who are looking to start at 5-0 before hitting the road for Charleston next weekend again, or this weekend. It's already here, and they'll be doing battle very, very, very soon down in Charleston on Friday night against Clemson, 6:30 Eastern on Friday night on ESPN2 in the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic. Don't say that too fast, but we'll get there when we get there. First up, though, Lafayette coming to Morgantown tonight. How they got here, they're 1-3 again. They are in the Patriot League. They have a loss against St. Joseph's, 85-76. They beat Dickinson, PA, kind of a tune-up game for them, 79-44. They lost to Texas, all right, so a conference, major conference opponent on their schedule. They lost that one 97-60 when they took the trip out to Texas. Obviously gave up a lot of points, gave up 97 points to Texas in that one. Texas made 9 of 23 threes. They shot it from the field, though, very, very efficiently, 33 of 63. Out-rebounded Lafayette by 18, 43-25. Lafayette had 15 turnovers in that one, just giving you some context for what another power conference team was able to do against this team that's coming to Morgantown tonight. And, Texas had a very, very balanced scoring attack again en route to their 97 points. They had 4 starters in double figures and then 2 starters two bench players, in double figures as well, ranging all the way from 16 points to 10 points. So really, really balanced attack from their offense in that efficient 97-60 win over Lafayette. And then their most recent game was on Thursday, the 13th, when the Mountaineers played against Pitt. So they're coming off the same amount of rest. They lost to Cornell 97-78. So this is a team in their 3 losses, right? You do the math. They give up 97 twice and 85 once. So defense has not been their forte so far this season. We'll see what the Mountaineers can do against this Lafayette team as well. Next thing I wanted to do is just give you some names to know on this team. Their leading scorer is a freshman guard named Caleb Williams, not to be confused with Caleb Williams on the Chicago Bears, but freshman 6-foot guard Caleb Williams out of Jacksonville, Florida, has had a pretty solid start to the season for him. Double figures in every game, 15, 16, 20, and 19. He had 20 in that game against Texas on 6 of 10 shooting, made 3 threes. He's got 10 threes on the season through their team's first 4 games. So he's the big scorer to look out for. But they've got a young team as far as their leaders are concerned. So again, Caleb Williams is a freshman. Andrew Phillips is a sophomore guard, 6'4" out of Chester Springs, PA, and he's averaging just south of 15 points a game. Also, a solid scoring game for him, 18 points against Texas in 31 minutes, including 8 of 12 from the field and 1 of 4 from downtown is the sophomore guard Andrew Phillips. A few other names here real quick. Sharif Jackson is a freshman, another freshman that's averaging just over 10 points a game from Philadelphia. And, they've got, whether it's freshmen or returning players, their fourth leading scorer is also a freshman. Mark Butler, another guard who is a sophomore who, was at Lafayette last season. So they return, just like we mentioned with Lehigh in that game, another team from the Patriot League. They have a lot of freshmen, and they've got a lot of guys that return, not a lot of transfers into this program, this season for Lafayette. But those are just some names to know, and obviously some guards to be on the lookout for, especially that guard, Caleb Williams, who, again, is averaging 17.5 points, 3.5 boards, 2.5 assists. Sharif Jackson, that freshman, he's 6'8", averaging 10 and 5. So, again, this is probably a game, an opportunity where Harlan Obioha can dominate, should he choose to do so, right? In the post, his best game of the season by far came against Pitt. Coming off of that one, how are you going to take some of that and even apply it to a team that's of, lack of a better way of saying it, lesser quality, right? Not a team that's as good or poses as much of a threat underneath the basket as Pitt does. So, just some other numbers real quick before we get into specific conversation about the Mountaineers. So again, Lafayette 1-3 overall, and let me just pull some stats up real quick, just to give you some context of where they're at on the young season. So Lafayette, Caleb Williams through the in the early going is the leading scorer actually in the Patriot League, and as a team, their defense is, again, we mentioned it, but they're almost next to last as far as points per game allowed, giving up, over 80 points a game through these first four, one of those being a dominant win that they had. As far as scoring is concerned, just kind of looking to see, where they're at. They're fourth in the league in scoring, 73 points a game. They are about middle of the pack in terms of three-point percentage, about almost close to 30% from three for Lafayette. Rebound in the basketball, about middle of the pack too, seventh in this 10-team conference, and about middle of the pack as far as how they share the ball around. Turnovers, Lafayette is eighth, or third, I guess you could say, in the league. Because they haven't turned it over a whole lot, just about 11 turnovers a game. So regardless, again, Lafayette, that's the team that's coming to Morgantown tonight, and I think the job is clear for West Virginia. You got to take care of business, and you got to build off of where you've come from, and that's where we'll go here as we kind of close out this episode, because the Backyard Brawl, you got a 22-point win in the Brawl, which should give you a confidence boost, right? That was in a lot of ways a measuring stick game, because you're going against another power conference opponent. It's the Backyard Brawl. It's your rival. You want to win, and you want to see where you're at. And that game might have told us some things about where we're at, and it feels good, right? Because if you got a 22-point loss, it might be telling you some other things, right? Pitt's learning some things about themselves right now that they might not like. And not to say that West Virginia has found it and completely figured it all out, but you learn. You learn where you're at, and you learn what you can improve on, and West Virginia can take that and learn what they can improve on too. But they also know what they're good at, and defense has been great so far this season, as to be expected under Ross Hodge. But just felt good to win that one. Felt really, really good, and I think that's a confidence boost for this team. Because, again, all these guys, except for Morris Ugasuk, who transfers from South Carolina, all these other guys, if they're not freshmen, they're transferring from smaller programs. And smaller programs where, a lot of them had a bigger role. We've talked about Trayson Eaglestaff and, his struggle to kind of figure it out in a different role other than just being the team's number one scorer and option at all times. He's kind of figuring things out. Honor Huff, Jasper Floyd, Bilo, Harlan Obioha, it's a new thing, for them to be playing at this level of college basketball, but to go and handle business against Pitt at home like that is a confidence boost for this team that's, in a lot of ways, I'm sure, maybe not internally, but a lot of people are probably questioning, right, well, how's this going to translate? All these guys come from small programs. Are they just going to be a small program in the Big 12? Well, obviously we're hoping not. And if that win is any indication, 'cause I don't think Pitt's the worst team in all of power conferences in basketball, but you beat them pretty good, and that felt pretty good, and it's a reason to move forward with optimism as, again, you start getting into some tougher opponents, and that's where West Virginia is going to go after this game against Lafayette. And I promise you, we're going to have a full-on preview of the Charleston Classic coming up this weekend. But want to just tell you a little bit about that now, just so you can know times and dates and schedules and who the Mountaineers are up against and who they might be up against, as part of that tournament as well. So Charleston Classic, not the week of Thanksgiving, the week before. West Virginia is going to be playing against Clemson at 6:30 on ESPN2. We know what Clemson's obviously done recently in March Madness. The other side of the bracket is Georgia and Xavier. So just 4 teams as part of this bracket here in Charleston. That game will actually tip off after West Virginia's game. So 6:30 and then 30, 20 minutes, whatever, following West Virginia Clemson will be Georgia and Xavier. The 2 teams that win meet in the championship of this little 4-team bracket on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And I'm actually reading this, kind of interesting. Sunday is the championship, 1 o'clock. And then the third place game is actually after it. It says at 3:30, at least on the website I'm looking at on WVUsports.com. So 1 o'clock, and the third place game is at 3:30. So West Virginia will be either getting Georgia or Xavier, depending on how these teams do. But that'll be, over the span of 3 days, the week before Thanksgiving, you're getting 2 games against high-level opponents. Again, you get to see where you're at. You get to see what you need to work on and continuing to improve. So I think, this game against Lafayette is last chance, right? Last kind of chance to figure some things out before you go up against Clemson, before you play them on a neutral court. And then, again, Xavier or Georgia. Power conference opponents. No slouches by any means. And so this is an opportunity, no slight to Lafayette, but an opportunity to tune up, to get ready, to get things figured out, and get your puppies organized, right? And see what you can do as you head into Charleston and a matchup with Clemson, hopefully with a confidence boost based on what you've done so far into the season. Obviously, Chance Moore, after this game against Lafayette, he's going to be free. So he's going to, his 5-game, where he has to sit out will be done, because Mountaineers will be through 5 games, hopefully sitting at 5-0 after Lafayette. And then he's going to be unleashed on Friday, and I think he's going to have a big impact. Still to get Jackson Fields, haven't heard any update on that. We will let you know when that comes, but he's another player that Mountaineers are going to have available sooner rather than later. So, again, Charleston Classic, we'll have a whole preview of that this week. I can assure you of that, but that'll be, tipping off on Friday. Tonight, after the Lafayette game, you can come back here in West Virginia football and basketball. We do it all here on Mountaineer Moment, and we're going to give you our post-game reaction and analysis here on another episode of Mountaineer Moment, so be sure to check that one out. But for Mountaineer Moment, my name's Troy. Super happy that you would be here. Hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.